Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Apex Season 4. I am Atlas, this is Wolf, and we have a shorter day for you today. Unfortunately, we've had some really awful news. LW Blue have forfeited for the rest of Apex Season 4. Their scoreline will now be 0-3 versus everyone in their group. For those playing at home, those teams are X6, Combox, and Metabellum. Unfortunately, it also means that Metabellum are now almost guaranteed that third place in the group. So it will be X6 and Combox most likely going through to that round of 8, unless anything completely crazy happens, like one of those top two teams is going to forfeit as well, perhaps. I certainly hope not. It would be an absolute disaster. So some bad news today, but we still do have a match for you. It will be MVP Space taking on Meta Athena. Meta, the organization that's trying to stay in the competition, and Wolf, I mean, it is a sad day, but this is going to be a good matchup.
It's going to be a good matchup. Just to put the last nails in the coffin of LW Blue, if you will, they will end the season with a -9 score. Any team that was scheduled to play against them, which is all of them, will by default get +3 points as if they had defeated them with a 3-0 score. LW will also not collect any of their fight money, so the teams will get extra fight money because they left the score with 0-3, so they get the 3-0 fight money. So it's good for the rest of the teams, unless you're Bellum, right? So their only way out was LW Blue, and they don't have that anymore. But tonight's match, as you said, is the revitalized MVP Space is going to take on Meta Athena. This could be a really good one. Now, remember, MVP Space did just defeat Lunatic High, and Meta Athena is coming off the 0-3 loss over Runaway, but Runaway looks to be in great form. So we could see a close series tonight. It's absolutely possible. Most are saying that MVP Space are the big favorites going in because they defeated the two-time back-to-back champions, Lunatic High.
Yeah, and looking at Group A now, with the context of MVP Space being so good and being able to take down Lunatic High in that 3-2 that we saw just recently, means that this group, we don't want to say goodbye to any of these teams. The last possible meta organization could be leaving. Lunatic High may not get into the round of 8. What the heck would that be? And Runaway, another team that has held our hearts over multiple seasons as well. I mean, if there's a group of death, I'm calling it Group A. We're saying that Group C is going to be the Afrika Freaks group, which we seem to have for the last 2 seasons. But Group A seems to be that group of death, and we'll see who's going to make it out. Very excited to see the result of this game, because MVP Space, if they want to be a contender for that top 2 spot, need to get something like a 3-0 here against Meta Athena, and they can play some full-on spoiler. Otherwise, it looks like we've got Runaway in a great position based on how they do against Lunatic High.
And the Lunatic High Runaway match is going to be so important, but MVP Space has to assume there's a high chance that Lunatic High can come back with their more stable roster and take that series. So tonight's match is very important for them. This is an organization that's been in 2 seasons of Apex. They've struggled in promotion series, and they've always fallen out in the group stage, never really making it further, and never living up to the organization, the long-standing team, MVP, that's existed in Korea since StarCraft 2. It was one of the first Team League teams for StarCraft 2. Had a great League of Legends roster, in fact had 2, and in Heroes of the Storm dominated for the entirety of 2016. In Overwatch, though, they've always fallen short, so expectations were low for MVP Space when they faced off against Lunatic High, but now they've risen so much more. But as you say, they need this win tonight, as many points as they can get, because the win over Lunatic High wasn't a stomp. They only got the +1 advantage there because they won it with the 3-2.
Yeah, exactly right. And Runaway, if they're able to have a better performance against Lunatic High, things could go differently. However, we need to caveat all this with how things went in that series and what roster Lunatic High were running, things like this, because we don't want to go in with overly inflated expectations for MVP Space, because it may not have been the Lunatic High that we're going to see for the rest of the season. Because Who Are You wasn't in, they weren't playing any Doomfist. It seemed like Lunatic High, even though they have been very good at the dive meta previously, this new Doomfist meta that is starting to emerge is something that they haven't necessarily wrapped themselves around, and that could be roster-based.
Yeah, exactly. We didn't see Guido, we didn't see Who Are You. So those are the players that you would expect to play the Doomfist. Taejun was locked in on the Tracer, and to be totally frank, he was very much outperformed by Yaki, who we'll see again today. Number 2 in KDA, very much the killer, and one of the main reasons why, even though eyes were on one fact, he was one of the main reasons why the backline was having so much trouble for Lunatic High. So excited to see how he does now up against Meta Athena. It's going to be a pretty cool one because Meta Athena, remember too, we have to say, sure, they got 0-3'd or 3-0'd by Runaway, but that's such a tough roster to go up against. So against Space here, we do have to remember their win over Lunatic High is not the normal Lunatic High win, so it doesn't count as much,
and also,
so to speak.
There's the classic mistake that you make at the start of a season that we all do as commentators, and I am certainly very notorious for, and it's looking at very small sample sizes and calling them fact.
Yeah.
And look, honestly, anything could have been happening. It could have been a bad day for Meta Athena, could have been a great day for MVP Space, and they fluked it through with that 3-2 victory over Lunatic High. You don't know any of these things. This next question that we have is about consistency, and there are certain question marks that I have that we really should focus on looking at both of these teams moving into this one as we're going over a whole bunch of fans. You saw there was a giant cavalcade of MVP fans
Hoon
in
for
this
president.
audience. Oh my goodness. You only need to change the H a little bit and you've got him, so it sounds fine to me.
That's exactly right. So, I mean, we have so many fans in the audience for Libero, specifically his nickname being CEO in Korea. I suppose he owns the rights to all the heroes because, yet again, he has the largest hero pool going into today's best of 5. He'll play anything, and he'll play the Pharah specifically very well. We saw some pretty decent Doomfist, so I don't think you can count Meta Athena out, but I do think you have to go into the series saying they looked a little bit disjointed in their last series against Runaway.
Yeah.
They didn't run the comps. They're now more meta than they were when they invented it going into Season 2. The Zarya comps, you would think they would perhaps have Hoon dominate on the Zarya, but he barely played Zarya. And so that's one of the things going into this series going, well, are they going to try to go into what everyone else is playing? Or are they going to try to stick with the Zarya comps that worked for them in Season 2? I think the answer is probably not, because they didn't really do it in their series against Runaway.
Yeah, and actually I'm really glad that you brought this up, because I got a little bit sidetracked by all of the fans, and now I'm going to get sidetracked by the players who are now going to be welcomed onto the stage. So let's check it out.
Overwatch Apex Season 4, energized by Hot 6, Round Robin. Today's matchup, MVP Space, Meta Athena.
And there you have it. Both of our teams actually able to get the hands up, working out in perfect synergy.
Absolutely.
And now let's see whether I can actually get to my point, because what I wanted to allude you guys to is what we're going to be looking out for both of these teams. And one thing that MVP Space were not tested against were the likes of the Pharah and the Doomfist. Honestly,
Yeah.
Lunatic High were playing basically the same comps over and over again, not throwing them too many mix-ups, and it meant that MVP Space basically didn't have to play any Soldier at all, or anything like this. We know that OneFact can play it, we know that Yaki can play it, we know that Undyne actually is happy to pick it up sometimes as well. However, we didn't necessarily get the test against two heroes that Meta Athena are known for. Libero, a fantastic Pharah player in his own right, and we saw him popping off on the Doomfist, even though there were some slight meme moments in King's Row while on the first point.
So, I mean, I think these things are really important to keep in mind, and I think that's why the first map is going to be very important as well. I want to point out just really briefly, the coach for MVP Space just shown on stage is not the same coach they actually used for the Apex seasons they played in previously. He's always had a hand in player selection. He's always been involved with the organization, never missed a day in the studio, but he was not the guy calling the tactical pauses. He was not the guy who was going into strategical depth with the team. He just had involvement because he was the MVP Black coach for Heroes of the Storm. the coach that dominated 2016. He's in the booth now. I think a lot of the success strategically coming in for Space in their match against Lunatic High, their lack of hero swaps are because he said, stick with what we've got here. You've already dominated the roster we're seeing here with Lee Tae-jun on the Tracer, and I think that part of the success or potentially the rise of MVP Space comes back to this coach right here who has such a long history. Not only did he coach MVP Black, he coached teams in the past like StarTale, the StarCraft 2 team. He's been around as a coach since 2010, and he's got some real experience here.
Yeah, and I could imagine that flexibility is something that Space will be able to get themselves into a good feeling for, because if there is a victory for Meta Athena in game number 1, you bet your bottom dollar that there is going to be that tack pause. He's going to come in, he's going to let them know exactly what they need to do to strategize for the next series. And I hope that that means that we're going to see another Icon Vault, because my god, MVP Space obliterated Lunatic High on that map. And Lunatic High were able to take down Runaway in the Grand Final of Season 2 on that map that Runaway was so incredibly good at. There are so many of these things that we have to remember, and my god, MVP Space, just such an impressive performance on Hybrid especially. So we'll see what happens if Control does go the way of Meta Athena. But this is the team we're going to be looking at now, a team known for being able to mix up the meta. They were known for being able to throw curveballs and change things up, and that's flat out not what we saw against that 0-3 loss against Runaway.
No, definitely not. I mean, they tried to run the Zarya, the Reaper play with Libero there, the Zarya Reinhardt on defensive King's Row only, and that was the only time they touched the Zarya. It was almost 100% play time for Hoon on the D.Va, sitting at 91.4% of that very short best of 5 against Runaway. But the Zarya play everyone was hoping to see, and the Hoon fan said Hoon for president. He's probably hoping in the crowd right now we're going to be seeing some big Graviton surges. But so far, it looks unlikely because this team just doesn't want to run that composition. And this is not the same roster that dominated before. That was with Changshik on the roster.
Yes.
With Changshik and even Alpha sometimes, players that were both more famous than Rio on the Reinhardt, working with Hoon together with the Zarya Reinhardt compositions back when that was meta in Season 2. And the lack of Changshik on this roster, I feel, is sorely missed. He was one of their strongest players, not as famous perhaps as players like Hoon, players like Libero, but he was so core in making that Zarya composition work. And now that he's gone, Rio has big shoes to fill.
Yeah, and it's like the same question that we had for Zumba, whether he was going to bring out the Zarya at the same time. Miro on the roster, he's the Winston player, almost like a Winston one-trick, but it's not because he can't play other things, it's because Winston's so damn good. But it did mean that Zumba was on D.Va duty, and it looked to be the same point with Rio moving into the roster here for Meta Athena, and means that Hoon has to hop on that D.Va unless he can flex sometimes in optimal circumstances. They can't just run those compositions in any situation. They can't use it just straight out the gate. But our first control map will be Oasis.
Yeah, and this is a map where Libero can play his Pharah, so this is a great starting map for Meta Athena. I think one fact is probably not going to be starting the Doomfist, depending on which map we start. If we start on University, it's a different story, but for the open maps here of Oasis, for those rounds, Pharah we are definitely going to see out of Libero, which means we're going to have to see the flex onto Soldier. So one fact might not be able to start this series off the same way they did against Lunatic High with Doomfist, and more Doomfist. It's going to be having to knock Pharah out of the sky. So in terms of this random map selection, definitely favors Meta Athena, you have to say.
Yeah, you have to feel it, although Yaki is their Pharah player, so maybe he'll be off the Tracer onto something else. We'll see what happens as we head to Oasis for map number 1.
Get it?
Oh my goodness. Meta Athena fans certainly out in force, understanding that the organization only has one team left and they're in the group of death.
The signs that the Meta Athena fans brought to the studio that we had somewhat shown earlier on camera said, today meta, tomorrow meta. And I think that's kind of the tagline for this team today, as a Rio fan in the crowd. But
a new one.
Yeah.
May have been an ex-Afrika fan.
Could have. as he was, of course, on Afrika Freaks Red, and before that, the MIG team. But Libero, of course, on the Pharah. No surprises here. The bigger question was going to be whether we'd see the flex from one fact onto the Soldier, if he was going to be doing the Tracer Pharah. So it is going to be mirrored compositions. Yaki, as you say, going on to the Pharah. So it's going to be a Pharah battle here, and it's basically going to determine who gets the first flip as to who gets the better shots here.
Yeah, we'll see what Yaki can actually get done. We were discussing this earlier on, actually, talking about the flexibility that MVP Space have with a couple of Tracer players instead of just having the one. Yaki did show that he is certainly the one with a little bit more experience, but one fact, still happy to hop onto that one. But Libero is the more practiced Pharah player, and we'll see who's going to be able to make this one work. So far, MVP Space with a good position.
Yeah, but Libero has built up much more ult charge here. He's been doing much more consistent damage. As you can see, nearly about to have that first barrage available. Both reses will be available as well, so it's going to be a scary moment. Saya picks up the double on the ground. Here comes the res to match it. Will we see that barrage come out? It's not ready yet. Now he's got it.
Yeah, and we know that Hyunu does have his revive available still. As there's the rocket barrage immediately destroyed. So Yaki just uses that opportunity to throw a bullet right in his face. Rocket going to explode the opposing Pharah, and now Yaki with free reign over the sky. As you can see, all of these bullets doing so much work. Kuki cleaning up this rocket damage.
We'll see if we see swaps coming out here after this first flip. Kuki's actually going to pick up the double here. This is a very, very close fight. Undyne about to have that extra res available. We'll go ahead and drop up QOQ here.
Yeah, immediately uses it as soon as it comes down. MVP Space continuing to try and tick this one up, but this first flip has not happened at all. Finally comes in, but that took a long, long time as Yaki will get taken down by Libero, but does get Hoon's mech in the process.
I mean, this first fight is basically not even over yet still. I mean, there's never been a clear winner here, but the most important thing is that Space has control. We're going to lose Undyne. No, I say it too soon. Does get the leap away there, the hover.
Yeah, shifts his way out. One fact, still looking for more here on the ground. Actually needs to be very careful in the opposite number of Saya player. Certainly a very, very practiced Tracer himself.
Well, Meta Athena trickled in pretty hard there, trying to get the flip because the fight wasn't over per se. Very similar ult charges on both sides at that moment, but because they lost the fight, they have to switch now. Saya player onto the Soldier, Libero's going onto the Doomfist. You can't really fight Pharah versus Pharah when you've lost control of the points. They're going to try to knock the Pharah out of the sky instead. We thought it would be the other way around with Libero on the Pharah, but not to be the case here, Atlas.
And I actually really like that they're switching up very, very quickly because they've been so stalwart in the last series against Runaway. They were sitting with losing comps for so long. This time, wasting no time at all. They're going to switch away from the Tracer, hop over to this Soldier Doomfist, and we'll see whether that's going to be enough to get rid of this pharmacy that is raining terror. Yaki's really having a field day right now, throwing rockets wherever he wants. Finally, we've got a Primal Rage to try and get him out of here.
Oh, look at this barrage,
rocket barrage, massive! Hyunu comes down with a double res at the same time to try and ease the bleeding, but Yaki doesn't care about it. He's just going to re-kill that Soldier, take down the Mercy, and MVP Space are going nuts in this fight. Already up to 80% against the 0 of Meta Athena.
Yeah, and they have an ult lead as well. They're still holding on to that self-destruct. Hoon just not there for the protection twice. And this was a moment where Yaki saw that Defense Matrix was on cooldown and Hoon was not facing the correct direction, took the opportunity. His barrages have just been, quite frankly, better. He's built them faster than Libero did when Libero was on the Pharah. Here comes their only chance to flip it using this tack visor, but already shut down again, this time by QOQ.
Well, thankfully, Libero is able to grab another kill here on Dokuki, so the front line's struggling. No more QOQ, and that is going to spell possibly a flip if they can get it in this overtime. But yeah, no one's on the point. This could be another time that Meta Athena are going to make that mistake, but it looks like it could potentially not go their way. MVP Space want to try and make their way back over here, and you can see Yaki desperately trying to hold on. Thankfully, Kuki's going to make it back in before this flip is going to happen, and MVP Space need to try and reclaim the positional advantage that Meta Athena had picked up for themselves, but it's do or die right now for the Meta squad.
They need to make something happen, but they just only have the sound barrier to try to contest. Here it comes. This is going to be how they try to come in. Yaki has another barrage available. He's got so many. This will be his 4th, I believe, this round.
Yeah, knows exactly where that Soldier is as well. Wants to get rid of him before anything happens, but Fuse and Undyne both already fallen down. No more healing to come out, and there's the end of Yaki Saya player. Nicely done. Finds the tracking onto the Pharah in the sky and takes him out. But without any of that healing from the Mercy, any of that boosting, it was an easier task for Meta Athena, and finally some positional advantage and the flip at 99% for MVP
And
Space.
Saya player does it without using the tack visor too. It just came online, so that's another tool they have to shut down the Pharah. Yaki's going to stick with it here despite losing control of the point because they've just really done a pretty poor job of shutting him down. Even though Saya player's accuracy has been so good, it's actually Kyokyu who's been doing the protection. And there's also this great backline dive we're seeing from Kuki. So he's just going to stick with the Pharah as he has this barrage. We'll see how he uses it.
Okay, well, Chris is going to be able to take down one fact, and MVP Space actually struggling to find the positions that they wanted. Yaki's just been pressured completely out of their rocket barrage. Still available, however, can't get into a position to use it. Meta Athena really taking control now, up to 40%. And this is with Libero on the Tracer. He switched off the Doomfist, hopped onto the Tracer once again. They wanted to have a little bit more range just because of the power that Yaki was providing potentially, and trying to get into that backline to disrupt Undyne and Fuse. Fuse, a player that has been playing very well, as Libero somehow lands a pulse bomb onto Yaki. So that's what he was trying to do. It's mid-air bombs that he's trying to get out. Does so very nice.
MVP Space needed to have a res where they baited out ultimates, and realistically all they got was this pulse bomb. Watch it midair. He gets the leap here, comes from the back, double blink, boom, there's the stick. But, I mean, they didn't bait any of those ultimates. They didn't get value out of the res just yet. Kyokyu is going to have a self-destruct, but this certainly absolutely could go the way of Meta Athena. They still have the ult advantage. As long as the res goes their way, there should be a win for them. 20% left to get this first round.
Yep, time is almost up. Self-destruct is now available. So 4 ults for MVP Space and double support ults, which is going to be very important. Yaki tries to find his way in, and this is going to be his opportunity to try and get something done. But they have to get rid of all of these ranged threats.
Fuse is down, and they baited the Transcendence, but they can't do much with it.
Oh, the single res as well as a disaster. Saya player denied a few of these opportunities as Sound Barrier comes in, and Kuki's going to be able to get rid of him. Rocket Barrage now able to get some work done as there's a self-destruct that could actually get some value. Fuse the only one to fall down. Could have been worse potentially as Yaki was able to get himself behind that wall. Pulse Bomb comes in, softens up the monkey and forces out that Primal Rage.
Now the Sound Barrier they got from the res wasn't enough. The Sound Barrier was there to meet it. For Meta Athena, they've got everyone alive and online, but still Yaki alive. No one has been able to take him out here. He's doing so much for them right now. Picks off Rio.
Yeah, the melee Pharah just punches him in the back of the head. So the Gorilla's down. We'll see whether Meta Athena can still get some work done because it is 5v5. Just a little bit of the tank line missing, and now Kuki's going to take his opportunity. One fact now with a Pulse Bomb, just finds it onto a wall. That is exactly not what you want. As you can see, Chris jumping over. Still is going to survive for the moment. Rewind has to come in for one fact to keep him safe, and we've got kills coming in on both sides of this battle. This is so close on the first round of control.
They're about to have another res. That's going to be so huge if they can get it. That could win them the point alone. It's available now.
Yeah, you got Sai player who's under a lot of pressure. Yaki's going to find Ryu once again.
Yaki and Undyne just doing so much, and the rematch comes through for Kyokyu, so we can buy so much more time.
Rocket Barrage! Instant double kill onto Sai player, and Chris, stunning from Yaki, just pops his head up, no chance to respond at all. And now with all of his counters taken away, it should be MVP Space getting this flip over and taking the first round. But this first map started not how we were expecting.
No,
that was so close.
It was so close, and we saw a better play with Saya player there with the Tracer duo. Once they made the switch, the Doomfist left a lot to be desired. Obviously, Doomfist is not the counter to Pharah. She flies, and he does not. Sure, yeah. He does temporarily, and we saw some cool pulse bombs in the air, for example, but it wasn't really Yaki outdoing Libero on the Pharah in the early game. I think it was Kyokyu outdoing Hoon in terms of defense. That's why we saw such a larger amount of rocket barrages. But you have to worry for MVP Space because even though they had every advantage you could possibly imagine, had the 99-0 flip, the fight still went so long. It still went to the 99-99. It was those picks there on the end to the DPSs that couldn't kill Yaki. The special res we saw there from Fuse, which actually kept him alive for so much longer, where he got the Sound Barrier. Those were the tools they needed. This is not going to be the Pharah map, though, for MVP Space.
Yeah, this is actually going to be the one fact map. He's hopped onto his Doomfist, and we've talked this up so much, and he's delivering. Double kill already. Kuki's going to be able to take down his opposite number as Ryu hits the deck, and man, I'm so excited to see this one. It was Libero that brought it out in our last map, not, like you said, a Doomfist map, and MVP Space dominant in that first exchange.
I mean, Libero compared to One Fact has absolutely been the more impressive on the Doomfist so far. They're also running the more meta Pharah comp here, whereas the secondary support for Meta Athena is switching onto the Reaper here for triple DPS with only the one healer. It's going to be a hard ask.
It's the same thing on the side of MVP Space, though, with Undyne picking up the Sombra. We know University is certainly a Sombra-friendly map, and Undyne does like to flex over to this one, as one fact is going to find Libero, just punches him in the head once again, asserting some dominance. Yaki picking up the kills at the same time, and they look so comfortable with this composition. MVP Space just wiping the floor with Meta Athena.
I'd like to see Saya player make the switch to, yet again, the Soldier to have a better ranged way of dealing with the Doomfist, because fist for fist, man, one fact has been better. And a lot of people are saying he's the best Doomfist we've seen so far this tournament. I think it's a bit early to say, but I'd say he's at least top 3. He showed very impressive control of the hero versus Lunatic High, and without a Soldier, you have to kind of Doomfist versus Doomfist, and it has not been working.
Okay, Pulse Bomb comes in from Sideplay to soften up the mech, and Kuki's going to fall down already. EMP to try and buy some space back, but he has to get the heck out of there with the Translocator. One fact still being able to pick up the kills, somehow gets it onto Sideplayer there as well as Meta Athena investing a lot into this one. Big uppercut comes out from One Fact and throws out the ultimate now as well. He's just tracking his way over to see whether he can pick up some kills and just pops down onto the Reaper and destroys him, punches Hoon, and it seems like you don't need a tank line if you've got One Fact, because he gets 2 kills just standing there on the point.
And we're soon to have another EMP available, 75% currently. Libero's trying to get the health pack, not going to be too useful as it's hacked down there. And this is just, again, domination from MVP Space. When it's Doomfist versus Doomfist, we knew this was going to be their arena. Unfortunate that Libero couldn't outperform Yaki on the first round, because this might be a 2-0 win for Space now. They are just really struggling.
Yeah, Libero is able to get one back though, but look, he's on about 1 health and he's going to be taken out by the Tracer. Just a couple of stray bullets going to be enough there, as we do at least have the ultimate. The Death Blossom is there for Hyunu if he wants to throw that one down. They've got a sound barrier in there as well, but Undyne's going to throw in the EMP, and MVP Space looking for more. There's Death Blossom finally going down, as I believe he picked up a stray Pulse Bomb at the same time. Is going to be enough for Meta Athena to get a pack of these kills. See whether they can actually reclaim this point now once again at 99-0.
Yeah, and you know, I don't want to say this one's over for by any means, because last time we went 99-99. A lot of ultimates used there. Obviously, the Death Blossom was used by Hyunu, and we saw Pulse Bombs on both sides. The better one there, certainly for Saya players, now built nearly another one. Fuse is going to have Sound Bearer. That may be their way to use One Fact to get the picks in the backline. As Libero himself was looking for that backline dive, he's unsuccessful.
Yeah, tries to get amongst it, but good defensive play coming out from MVP Space. Once again, Meteor Strike coming in. Felt like he was almost forced into it though, and there's the sound barrier to stop any of this damage from really registering. So many softened up members, as One Fact's going to dive through as well, but that's a defensive one. Tries to turn around and get something done, as he's eventually taken out by Saya player who was on his tail. Forced out of this fight though, MVP Space still able to get a couple of kills back, making it a 4v4.
Okay, I mean, Doomfist works so well with Sombra with the health packs.
Oh,
He just keeps getting picked before he can actually get them. Yaki does pick up the double here, though. Now what do they have? They don't have any ultimates. Hoon, so low on health, has to retreat here. Overtime's ticking down. They have to dive in with the Winston, but he's alone. Here comes that EMP.
Yep. Flip does end up coming in, and now you see it. Yaki's just given so much space by One Fact. Everyone on Meta Athena has to be scared, and then Yaki pops off, and then they turn back to Yaki. They're like, we got to kill the Tracer, and then One Fact kills 3 people. Overtime's going to tick down, and that is going to be the 2-0 for MVP Space. This is what we wanted to see from this team. Is the Tracer Doomfist combination that was so impressive from the squad against Lunatic High.
And now we got to see also Yaki's Pharah dominate as well. We knew this map was likely to be Meta Athena favored because of Libero's Pharah being one of the best in this tournament, one of the best in Apex history. And that's one of the reasons why he's so famous, is him flexing to it so many times. But One Fact vastly outperformed him when it came to the Doomfist versus Doomfist. And, I mean, he built up so many shields. When you have Sombra too, you have 2 high-mobility heroes, the Tracer and the Doomfist, but you have more burst heal, not from a support, but from the health packs that your quote-unquote secondary support, in a way, the hybrid there from Sombra are providing. So that was why we saw Doomfist do so much, and why he survived so many times after these meteor strikes where he was at 20 health, gets a little bit of shield, gets the dash into the health pack. So the Sombra working really well with Doomfist in this composition on this very map. And now I worry for Meta Athena because this was supposed to be the map where Libero could dominate on Pharah, but the protection from Hoon was mediocre. QOQ had the better protection on round 1, and now they've got map choice. You would have to expect we're going to King's Row, but it looks like a discussion is needed as head coach comes into the booth here.
Yeah, Meta Athena getting forced out. We did mention the fact that this would be something that MVP Space would do if this was going to happen as well. Of course, that applies to Meta Athena because they're going to need some serious conversations to work out exactly where they want to go and the type of comps that they want to run, because what I want to see is Rio switch over to something like a Reinhardt so that Hoon can get some Zarya action happening. I want your coveted Phalanx comp to come out. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Yes, that's correct.
Oh, thank you. But I want a composition like that from Meta Athena because I want to see Hoon Zarya because he's so good and breathe some new life into Meta Athena.
I mean, what we saw from them on King's Row, which again is very likely to be the map that we're going to, you definitely don't want to face space on Eichenwald, so that's definitely out of the cards. Numbani, less likely too, because I think the big glaring issue with the composition for Meta Athena, just looking at stats alone from heroes played, Libero just simply does not play the Tracer. So when Saya player is your best soldier very often,
He did just play the Tracer though and actually looked pretty good.
It was okay here on this particular map, right? Well, when Saya player's on it, it's better though. When he has to play the soldier, I don't think Libero's as successful. And I think that when you have to run this against the Doomfist because you can't win the Doomfist versus Doomfist because one fact is just simply better than you, that's a weakness. And we'll see if they just want to keep trying to use Libero for that. I did like the idea of how they ran the quote-unquote Phalanx with Reaper actually with Libero on defense on King's Row. Wasn't enough to get them the win, unfortunately, but still an idea in terms of what they can do with Hoon Zarya. But that was the only time we saw him run Zarya against Runaway, was on that King's Row map, and that's why we expect to see it yet again, but it feels predictable. It feels like when you do this, especially when you call a tactical pause, you're more likely to do something else because MVP Space has already clearly studied the matches you played just last week. Why would you run the same comp when you've got a tactical pause here? I think the coach is coming and saying, if we're doing King's Row, let's change it up, let's do something different. And he might be even discouraging Libero playing on this Doomfist. He's not a bad Doomfist, but by comparison, he looks bad.
Yeah, this is the thing. They almost want to try and get to a hybrid map that doesn't provide any opportunity for Doomfist, something like that. And I'm not necessarily sure what that option is going to be. There's so many hybrid maps that do work out so well
I think
for a character like Doomfist.
I think Numbani's your best bet on defense because you can have the high ground control there. You can put Saya player on the soldier, and you can shut down the Doomfist and try to come in for the dive to try to take that high ground out. I mean, MVP Space looks like they've already got a plan. There's not a whole lot of discussion on the booth. This tactical pause for them was more of a bathroom break as three players come back in.
Only Numbani that's your option here against MVP Space. You can't go to Eichenwald because that's just a complete disaster. MVP Space so good. King's Row, once you get to that Foundry, you've got, you know, Doomfist roaming around. You could almost defend that point forever if you've got a Doomfist like One Fact has shown us. And you move over to Hollywood. Hollywood's fantastic, especially on that first point, for defensive play out of Doomfist.
I think that if they have a choice. They want to try to counter the Doomfist, they go to Numbani. Do they want to play the Phalanx? They want to put Hoon on the Zarya, then you go to King's Row. I don't think there's really a third option here.
Yeah, King's Row feels like the comfort choice here for Meta Athena.
And I think the big worry part of that is if you don't get the full hold, once you go to Foundry, Doomfist is just going to dominate. We've seen it from not only this roster, MVP Space, but several other rosters throughout this tournament using the Doomfist to great effect. And One Fact is so terrifying on the hero. Where are we headed? They're going to go for the comfort pick with King's Row, the famed Hoon Zarya. You have to imagine on defense at least we will see it, but it didn't look to be very coordinated when we saw it when they played against Runaway last week. So that's what I'm worried about here.
Yeah, I'm certainly worried as well because we remember, exactly, against Runaway, not a great time for Meta Athena. And I don't want to say it because otherwise we'll fill Twitch chat with stuff that we just really don't want to hear. But it was a certain circumstance where someone wasn't on a point even though they were picking up a bunch of kills and then it was taken anyway.
Yeah, it's almost like a letter of the alphabet and a number were spammed throughout the internet when that happened.
Similar colors to MVP, I don't know.
Yeah.
Confusing. Anyway.
Blue and white were on the mind.
Still is an option now if they were in that tac pause talking about getting Hoon Zarya in there, getting a different composition available for them. King's Row will offer you that, especially on that first point. So let's do it. Let's head to King's Row and find out what Meta Athena have in store. here we are. I hope Meta Athena sticks with this comp because we were talking about innovation, and this would certainly be innovative.
Oh, absolutely. This is the very famous Platinum League. I lost already on defense. They got the full push.
I know. I'm normally the Torbjorn in this comp.
Yeah. I usually play the Symmetra in this one.
Oh, nice. You're
That's
such
me.
a hipster. Look at you. Just microwaving things. I know how you like your dinner, so it does sort things out.
Sure. And
that makes sense.
When you're on the Korean server, this is how it goes. Your opponents get like a 5:30 time bait completion on King's Row. When you get to do attack, you're like, oh no. As soon as you see Libero and Hanzo, you're like, all right, I'm playing Sombra. Who's playing Torbjorn?
Yeah,
come on, somebody's got to play Torbjorn.
Someone's like, just stressed out timing in chat. I'm just like, I'm just doing it for Sonic Arrow to start things off, guys. It's okay. I might throw a scatter and then I'll switch. I promise.
Well,
please don't troll.
Look at the setup here for MVP Space. It's very reminiscent to what we saw from the Foxes, actually, with one fact going to be on the McCree here. So this Tracer McCree defense with just standard 2-2-2. Otherwise, the Winston and the Diva. This will be scouted out by Libero's Sonic Arrow. At least he attempts to. Fails to get the confirm there. Saya player takes a shot too, and they are going to run the Doomfist now on attack. Remember, this map choice is mostly for them for defense, not so much what they're famous for attack here. So they're going to run the same comp pretty much everyone else is, though, with this Doomfist McCree as they slowly approach.
Yeah, this
the Mercy though is a little bit unusual.
Certainly a different change up. Could boost Saya players' damage, which seems to be the option that they're looking for. So break down the barriers quickly, try and get them into this point, but it's a more slow-moving comp. There's not a lot of flanking potential that Yaki certainly does have, and he's going to be able to take down Ryu. Of course, on the front line, that's going to be enough. Kuki's going to jump onto Saya player, though, and so far it's not necessarily working. Libero picking up one of these kills in response, but already it's been Meta Athena forced back off this point. One fact just sitting down and saying, well, I'll throw as many bullets out as I want, and it seems like he's under no threat at all because there's no Tracer to try and stuff him up.
I feel like if Chris was on Lucio, I'd like this comp a lot more because you could have the sound barrier for the hard engage when you want to use that res, but I mean, they farmed the res so well here. They're going to have the Primal Rage soon, but Rio, again, goes in too soon, gets picked, and now this push is over. They could waste the res here, but not with Yanu dead.
Yeah, he's just going to be taken down. Yaki throws a Pulse Bomb onto Libero, and this is looking almost all too easy for MVP Space. They looked brilliant on Hybrid last time we saw them, and now you've even got Kyokyu sniping people off with the help of Yaki.
Well, Libero, again, this time he's not facing off against One Fact on the Doomfist because One Fact knows he just wants to play this at range. They're just playing the slow range defense here, trying to catch the dodgeball, so to speak. That reference I always make for some reason, where Rio goes in for the dive. They kill Winston first, and the rest of the comp falls apart. You don't want to use the res on Winston. Already, Hoon is demeched here. This push is going to fail. It almost feels like they're just trying to farm ult charge. But how is this push really going to work? Your only good dive hero is the Doomfist. You've got Winston there as well, but there's not going to be any nano boost. You don't have the sound barrier. Transcendence can only do so much.
And MVP Space,
I mean, they have the same amount of ultimates too. It's not like they're winning out in ult trades here either.
Yeah, and look, that pick from Saya player could have been good if they hadn't have lost one of their members already. It feels like there's these one kills just hopping out left, right, and center for onto Meta Athena, and MVP Space are never really under pressure on this point, and they've got so many ultimates. We've got a Meteor Strike coming in for Meta Athena, and we'll see what they can do. There's 4 on the side of MVP Space, though, and Kuki is going to be taken out. Hoon able to get that kill to start things off. A side player doesn't find the flashbang. Now trying to find more. Pops in with the Meteor Strike. He's very, very low, though. Has to be careful.
They have the res available, so this is going to be that push I was talking about here. The opening pick there onto Kuki, I think, really allowed this to happen.
Yeah, nicely done.
And I don't think they can really go for a last-minute contest very successfully without the Primal Rage. Now, they're going to try for it. They have the sound barrier.
Yeah, they went for the boop, and it's actually not going to get taken just yet. One fact, with the sound barrier, able to get a lot of shots in. Their self-destruct is going to try and get them off this point. Hoon, almost picked, but Yaki not quite able to do it. His Transcendence comes in. Meta Athena really trying to hold on to this one as Chris throws it out, and we've still got a res available. One fact is going to fall, and there's no res on the side of MVP, so Meta Athena might have done it. Already up to past 2 ticks. It's ticking up once again, but now the kills are coming in, and Meta Athena have confirmed that they'll take this point, flip it over, and they're going to start getting this cart moving, but only 3 minutes to get through the streets phase, and this Foundry will be tough for the team.
It was the pick onto Kuki that allowed their dive to be so successful.
Oh, nice work,
Saya player is just so good at range. That's why I really like seeing his soldier when we can see it. I mean, going back as far as to promotions, one back shakes his head. He's frustrated about that one. They have an ult advantage, too, because of how it all worked out there. They didn't have to use very much. They even held on to the res because MVP space was so disjointed that they couldn't get kills. I think the big trade-off, though, for this type of push that took so much setup and so much ult building is that they don't have a very good time bank. And, you know, you never really want to have this situation, but if it's the safest way you feel you can take the point, then what works, works. And they do have 2 minutes left on the clock.
I think it depends on what happens now, though. As Meta Athena have 4 ultimates, they could theoretically make something work. Libero's going to throw in his ultimate. It's Kuki. He's coming down. They find one fact, actually, and Libero has so much space to work with. Rio actually going to help him out just because this Doomfist has been providing so much space, because they have to turn to try and get rid of him, because if he can close that distance, he does so much damage. And Meta Athena, they didn't invest too many ultimates.
Only 2.
It's just going to be 2, and they are picking up these kills. This Streets phase looking like the speed limit's set pretty high.
And they got the double kill here, sorry, the 2 ults to get several kills. They get all the way to this final point. One back's going to go for the last minute contest here. But if they grab this, if the defense fails for space, the time bank they had that was so small won't matter in the end.
This is the perfect place for the contest, though. Psyplay is just looking for the kills with the Deadeye. Doesn't find anyone, unfortunately, just ducked behind the card. And now they're looking for more. But if MVP Space can reclaim control here at this point, it's very difficult for Meta Athena to get themselves to a good position, but Yaki can't be running into flashbangs. One fact answers, and they are going to be able to at least create themselves some point of control, and it's going to be Rio getting brought back to life with that res. MVP Space now, Sound Barrier coming in to try and answer, and these picks are coming in. See who's actually going to be able to get that upper hand. One fact onto Rio, he dies again in this fight, which is a bit dangerous. Now One fact just gets himself out. Yeah,
the time bank now starts to become a very big issue with no res available. They're going to have to try to build that here carefully. A few more picks could cause them to lose this one. They're actually going to commit the self-destruct here very early in the fight. That's not going to be available anymore.
Yeah, and One fact actually dives himself back in with the rocket punch and kills Sire Player. So much of the DPS now missing as another self-destruct is going to come down, but Libero's just going to Meteor Strike his way out, actually looking for the kill onto the Lucio, but he's too fast. Can't land that slow-moving ultimate onto him at all. And now he's just trying to create distance. The double kill for Chris is interesting, as Fuse is taken out by him as well, and it looks like we are going to be able to get to this point finally. That was so close for Meta Athena, but now the Foundry, this completion will be hard.
One fact, Meteor Strike was kind of a suicide mission. He got the pick, but he died. He was so required with no other ults available to actually buy enough time to get the rest of the Primal Rage, QOQ, having another self-destruct. The ult efficiency on the side of Meta Athena has been so much better from start to finish. They had the ult lead, but that meant they could use only 2 to flip some of these points, to push down the street space, and they've just been so efficient. Again, getting these picks without ultimates means they're going to have an ult lead to try to get completion. So even though they have a small time bank, they may just be able to continue to use this efficiency to get that completion they're so seeking right now.
I really love the Hyunu Mercy here paired with the McCree. Hyonu's like one of these secondary supports that's not a Lucio player that has his most playtime on the Mercy as well. He's showing us that the practice certainly is working out. One fact, gets himself towards this cart, but it looks like a bit of a disaster. Will have the Meteor Strike if he needs it, and does take down Libero.
Okay, hold on to that res.
Opportunity, yeah, he's actually just going to hold on to it. Doesn't want to invest it here. They know that they've got another push. But after that, that'll be all they really have. Only 30 seconds to go.
Let's see if Hoon wants to use the self-destruct to open up the floodgates for Libero to get the kills, just like they did last time, really only using 2 ults to get that completion on point B. Pulse Bomb goes wide here, and this means with 6 ultimates available, if they stagger them correctly, they've got a huge opportunity. Libero's going in without the self-destruct, though. He's going to start the fight.
Yeah, actually going to throw in the Meteor Strike here as well. Uses it to escape, but Yaki's going to kill Ryu in the meantime. When you're up in that sky, you're not actually able to contribute, and it's almost like a 6v5 that was working for MVP Space until that res came in. Can they make this one work, as we will be hopping into overtime? They have to get onto this point. A side player is looking for the Deadeye, but doesn't find any joy. And the double kill with the self-destruct is going to be so important for QOQ to try and regain control and hold off Meta Athena on their push. Self-destruct flies through, doesn't find anyone.
He's really just using it to re-mech here, to buy time for the rest of his teammates to come back, but I don't think it's going to happen. Zenyatta's not the hero to buy that time. There's the overtime ticking down, and we saw, I think, the big problem here, unfortunately, for the side of Meta Athena for grabbing this completion is they just didn't have the time pool to work with, because they got the ult advantage and they got that longer push into taking point A because they got the pick onto Kuki. That's what gave them that massive ult lead, so they just kind of threw 1 or 2 out each and every time to push through the streets phase. They always had an ult lead because they held on to so many ults for a long extended period of time. The res, for example, comes to mind. We could have maybe seen 2 or 3 more reses during that round if she had used it more aggressively, but she was waiting for the big res, the money res. They're hoping for the big Hoon self-destruct engage to get the kills with Libero. But at the end of the day, when delayed tactics come through and you start to run out of those ultimates, the lack of a lot of time bank does work against you. And look at this QOQ ult. They just weren't ready for it. They were so heavily committed in that moment to using the Transcendence to actually make that push happen. But there was no way to block it, no shield available from Rio. And now Space, all they have to do is get completion, which, again, it's easier said than done. But I think they feel pretty comfortable with this one because, remember, this is OneFact's arena now to shine on the Doomfist. And let's see, remember, this is one of the things we were talking about for Meta Athena when we went into this map pick. We said, okay, they could try to take the range defense if they want to go to Numbani. If they want to play this map, we expected them to run the Zarya comp. But they're not showing it to us here. This is not the same comp they showed us against Runaway. That's where they ran the Reinhardt, the Zarya, and they had the Libero Reaper there with that composition. That was the main damage dealer that was connected with that Phalanx, but didn't work out for them last time, and they're changing it up here.
Yeah, I like that Hyonu Mercy once again going to be boosting the soldier damage this time from that high ground, so we'll see whether that works. Tracerless once again for Meta Athena. And I feel like Libero needs to have a better performance now on the Doomfist. He is improving. The attack from Meta Athena was better than what we saw in Oasis. So that's University.
That scout right there is saying, where is Saya player? Is he there over on the right side, or is he going to be on the left side? That's where the Sonic Arrow came through. He's actually going to be sticking with this, though. He's going to be playing the Hanzo here.
Yeah, well,
with the 2 tanks.
I mean, if you've got OneFact on the Doomfist, you want more range, and I guess having a guy that shoots really long-range arrows, that does make a bit of sense. Look at the thinking.
He's trying to kill specifically Saya players so that OneFact has no one else to deal with at range. That's his target here. Unsuccessful in getting the picks, but you can see that's exactly who he's tracking for, though, with those Sonic Arrows.
Yeah, and also looking for the Mercy here as well. If he can get Hyonu, get rid of all of those boosted opportunities. They have bought a lot of space, though, as now Meta Athena are going to find their way back in. Some good kills for Libero, though, starting to prove himself on this Doomfist.
Wonder how long Yake will stick with this Hanzo, because he's done decent damage, but didn't get the kills, didn't even get the Dragon Strike yet. It's like they want to see it through here. As the Nano Doomfist is something we could see. More likely to be on the Kuki, so he can build his ultimate, so we can see that amazing Dragon Strike come through, but he doesn't have it yet. 10% away.
Pressure from having this Hanzo is so important, as yeah, he throws out the wolves, but not really going to find too much with that one.
It looks like it was eaten there, but OneFact still with this opportunity. After the D-Matrix goes down, everyone's diving in at this moment. Here comes the res, though. So important here.
The whole front line was actually resurrected, but QOQ kills Libero immediately afterwards. It's like that timing was not necessarily great, as OneFact dives too far. Good orbs come out of Chris, and he's going to be able to pick that one up, but you can see Kuki, he's playing up so far. Saya player forced to throw all of his bullets towards him, in MVP space are going to be able to get that first cap. A lot more time in the bank, as it was 2.5 minutes faster than that of Meta Athena.
Running a more standard comp here with the Hanzo. I know it sounds crazy to say, but in 2017, the comp they're running is a little bit more standard here. The Mercy
Undyne as well, moving over to the Ana, they've got double long range to try and get the pressure, and Meta Athena, you saw they had to move so far back.
The Mercy gives a lot of extra DPS, and it really helped empower Saya player. They got the res there. Saya player on the soldier, I think the coach may have similar thoughts to mine on how to deal with the Doomfist. Put Saya player on that soldier. He had some incredible plays there. The lack of healing was a problem. Now we're going to see the sneaky Dragon Strike attempt before he switches off the Hanzo, very likely here, just to seal the deal on street space. Here it comes.
Yeah, just throws it in there. Yep. Good communication, but Libero's going to be able to take down Undyne. Some decent damage coming out onto Meta Athena, though, and look at Chris, just comes in round the back, gets him with a boop in the end, but QOQ, the last man standing, is going to be able to get that work done, and he's still at full health. Double res comes out, Meta Athena investing a lot to try and stop this cart here, and Saya player is going to be able to continue that one down. OneFact has to try and get out, but can't. This was just so much damage with that tac visor.
This was the opportunity for them to just try to get a bunch of free kills. If Meta Athena had just not reacted correctly there, then they get a bunch of free kills with the Dragon Strike, and they try to get all the way through the streets phase. But because they have such a large time bank, and Yaki was never going to fully commit to the Hanzo past grabbing point A, he is going to switch to the Tracer. So this was their opportunity to try to get something out of that extra Dragon Strike. It failed, but that's okay because they always knew they were going to switch to this anyways.
Well, now they've got the Nano Boost available, so they can have a very, very angry Monkey who's going to jump his way forward. One fact now as well isn't going to be the prime target because Winston's doing so much damage. Kuki does take down Libero, and look at this. One fact seems to have so much space to work with. Meteor Strike will come in, he'll hop his way back onto the point, break at least a barrier, and now look for some more. But it's good grenades coming out of Undyne. Everyone's so healthy, and One Fact's going to uppercut Chris to death. And it feels like this is going to be an easy point B capture. They're going to try and snowball it into this Foundry, utilizing One Fact on his incredible Doomfist.
So still a large time bank now to not even get full completion here for MVP Space. 4 minutes of time. Sayaplayer going to make the risky swap. We've seen this out of desperation, for many teams on this Foundry here with very relatively limited success as he's just trying to hope to get the lucky shot there on the One Fact. But they have just been shutting Sayaplayer down on the Soldier so well, and that Nano coming through with the Winston there was part of the reason why he couldn't defend against One Fact once he started diving in. They have the ult lead as well, and this Widowmaker just feels so desperate out of Sayaplayer.
However, I mean, they've only got a Tracer and a Doomfist. As you can see, Yaki's actually able to get over there and try and take him down. Oh, manages to get Chris somehow. No stick on that Pulse Bomb, but unfortunately trips over it, does Chris. One Fact now finding the Meteor Strike, jumps down onto Hyonu, and look at this, the cart moving straight towards the end. Meta Athena are going to fall. MVP Space with a 2-0 lead in this series, and they're doing it with style.
Yeah, they took the risk, Meta Athena did. They brought us to one of the best maps for One Fact's Doomfist. They had the answer. Their solution was to use Sayaplayer to shut him down, but the dive into the backline every time was when he was able to shine. When the Meteor Strike comes in and Sayaplayer is being dove by a Tracer as well, he can't do anything there, and the cart just moves freely. They took a risk. They didn't have the solid defense that they needed to have. The Hanzo just broke them apart there. They couldn't deal with that. There was so much time on the side of Space, and Sayaplayer was the target. They knew from the beginning, as long as we shut him down, it's going to be an easy win. And we saw, I mean, the most impressive part of all of this, when Yaki was specifically tracking him there, when he had the Sonic arrows out, he's like, oh, I've got your number, man. And then it was later on, he was doing it on the Tracer, trying to kill Sayaplayer. It was always the Doomfist from One Fact. Once Sayaplayer's out, I'm just going in and I'm taking names. And now, match point on the side of MVP Space. The gamble here, bringing us to King's Row, did not pay off. As we head into Assault, it's going to feel really rough if you're a Meta Athena fan, because this could be their last map. I mean, sure, they have to play their final series, but if they lose this, getting out of the group, pretty unlikely.
Yeah, and it was already looking pretty unlikely in this group of death. It's a real dangerous one, Wolf, and Assault feels like a difficult map to take down MVP Space on. We'll see how they're going to do. We are going to have a short break, ladies and gentlemen, before we head over there, and we'll see exactly which Assault map we are going to get. I just want more One Fact, personally. If Libero can play some sick Doomfist and bring us to a game number 4, I'd be okay with that one too, but we'll see whether the highlights are going to keep rolling, ladies and gentlemen, as we have a short break. We'll see you after. Wow.
Nothing remaining of the vocal cords of the cheerleader for Meta Athena for that one.
Yeah, we almost had a third cheer. That was pretty confusing. But I didn't catch what it was.
I didn't catch it either, but I do know that before the broadcast started, one of the Meta Athena fans stood up and asserted that she would be doing the countdown, and that was her just there. And she had one of the greatest we've had this season, no doubt. But I don't know if it'll be enough to save the hopes of this team. During the commercial break, as often in commercial breaks, one of the teams will, or both of the teams usually will go into their rest area, get a water, chill out, and prepare for the next match, talk with the coach there. For Meta Athena, nobody got out of the chair. Nobody was speaking. They were listening because the coach was talking quite a bit. And we already expected that one of the reasons why we might see Meta Athena on this map would be because of the attack Widowmaker. Don't know if Saya player will hold on to that one, but we are going to see the Pharah. So already both heroes we mentioned for this map are locked in and ready to go. It's going to be the boosted Widowmaker here, and we'll see if the Pharah can actually destroy that backline, as we don't see one fact on the Doomfist. It's going to be Yaki on the Genji instead, so the dive defense.
Yeah, and it's going to be one fact sitting on the Tracer there as well. So a bit of a change up from what we saw last time around, as Libero trying to throw in some rockets, and it feels like Genji's not going to have a lot of joy against the massive range of both this Saya player Widowmaker and the Pharah. Some decent shots coming out from Saya player, as you can hear the crowd getting excited about it.
So much space bought actually with this Widowmaker, in fact. So difficult to actually contest the Pharah when your DPSs that are trying to knock the Pharah out of the sky are being sniped and chased by Saya player on the Widow.
Yeah, well, Libero's hasn't taken a shot from anyone at all. I mean, that's all we saw, but I mean, that's just 10 health or something from some random bullets from a Diva. Doesn't seem like MVP Space is too worried, as Meta Athena are moving themselves back.
Yaki wants this.
Yeah, he's trying to... Oh! There it is, the snapback 1v1 victory for Saya player at 10 health there as well, no less.
And you and I did our coveted just as it always should be on Anubis when you and I are casting Widowmaker plays.
Perfect. All right, Pulse Bomb is going to go completely wide. One fact threw that one down, but will take a celebratory health pack. And this point A still hasn't been taken yet. Has been one that Snowball capped quite a few times on this map especially.
Oh, another one on the Yaki. He is just waiting for him. He's like, you think you're trying to get me? Yaki hands off the keyboard. He's like, I don't know about this guy.
I don't know about this guy either. He did have the ultimate running, so at least he knew what was going on, as there's going to be the res onto Libero. Undyne's going to be taken down. Meta Athena now should be able to get themselves towards this point.
Space just doesn't have very many tools to work with. They got the long run back coming in as well. The self-destruct used just for remeching here. They just want to burn some of that time. And they have Kuki with the Primal Rays available. He's going to be able to use it here. He's holding on to it right now, but he's got it. Does pop it here now, so could buy some further time here.
And all the time they can buy is actually very, very important. As, yeah, you're right. Primal Rage is going to come down, and it throws them all off this point. Can't even get the first tick, actually, just yet. A Sound Barrier keeps Meta Athena alive, and Yaki's going to be taken out. Punch to the back of the head as Libero's just going to celebrate for a little while, as this should be that first cap coming in. MVP Space going to set up for the defense over on point B, but a decent defensive method on point A thus far, and only 5.5 minutes to try and get this cap happening. This is where we get to the business end of this matchup.
And now one fact's back onto, in this arena, no surprises, the Doomfist. As I said, he switches to the McCree. But Yaki, he's number 2 in KDA in this tournament, and this round alone will drop him down some points, as he has just been struggling to find anything. But here comes the Dragon Blade, fails to get the kill onto the Pharah and the Widow. Now he slashes air, and it might be time to switch here for this Genji player, as he is just not finding the success he found on the Tracer.
Yeah, we see him shaking his head, actually. It was a bit unfortunate, as Libero now really far up and able to do this because he just hasn't been contested so far. Decent damage coming down, but I can see at least the support members are still alive in MVP Space. Yeah, punch to the back of the head, that's going to do it. Moon's going to take down Kuki there as well, as Yaki was just jumped on by a Pharah. It's not what you want to see. She's normally too far away. Look at Libero, he's just so comfortable on this hero, and also just able to get so much done against the comp that MVP Space have.
I mean, this is comfort picks for the map to a T for Meta Athena. The 2 heroes we mentioned. Look at this backline here.
Oh,
nice
good sleep from Undyne. And he's got a nano boost here as well to try and add this. Okay, one fact finds the kill onto Chris with the new and improved Deadeye. Libero taking so much damage. Okay, now it's One Fact's time to shine. Not on the Doomfist this time, but able to get a lot of damage onto Rio. Not sure what he was doing that far up. That's called spawn camping when you're losing the fight. Bad news, Bears.
Let's see what they switch to. Okay, it's going to be the Talon composition here for attack, just straight up with the Sombra and the Reaper. Hyunwoo actually is just not... whenever they do this with a Reaper, it's always either Hyunwoo's playing the Reaper or it's some sort of weird DPS squad. It's going to be the triple DPS with actually the Mei coming through here.
Hyunwoo's like such a hipster, man.
Yeah, he's like
if I'm playing support, I'm playing Mercy, and if I'm flexing to DPS, I'm playing Mei. Yeah, don't worry about it, guys.
He's just trying to be the new Fleta, trying to be the new Libero. He wants to increase his hero pool to the next level. Going to see attack Torbjorn soon.
I'm looking forward to it, man.
All right, they're running it down left here, and they are going to try to have an extended fight to actually get the Blizzard up. Doesn't take very long to get that one, actually. But already Libero is down, so it's going to hurt this first push. And they don't have a lot of time, actually, to build that Death Blossom. 3 minutes, of course, but it's going to need to happen a little bit faster than this.
Yeah, with that pick coming in, though, I mean, Meta Athena already knew that they weren't going to be able to win this fight. MVP Space going to throw everything in there. They didn't even need to invest anything. One Fact has switched over to the Doomfist, and they've got that triple DPS composition that we saw work so well on University, and we saw MVP Space able to look so comfortable on it as well. These are the heroes that they looked brilliant on versus Lunatic High at the same time.
And with Libero here only halfway to that EMP, they need to do another eco push here. Zagis just look for the jump down, finds it.
Yeah, throws himself a pulse bomb in there, notices that it didn't actually find any joy, unfortunately.
He jumped on and he found them, but the hit did not stick. They're going to just, again, try to build up for this Death Blossom. That's the objective of all these pushes. If they can get more, they'll be happy for it. They don't quite have it yet. Here comes the Doomfist Meteor Strike from One Fact to just shut this down in its tracks.
Oh, you know, nowhere to run.
He was on the ledge, but there was nowhere else to go, as you say.
I can jump off the edge and just die, and that's going to be more kills for MVP Space. They're so good at snowballing that one pick into more.
Well, ironically, it's funny that Libero actually got his EMP later than the Death Blossom. They're going to have the combo coming up, not with the Blizzard, but that is going to be, perhaps in the longer fight, going to be available if they can make this happen. But this is the Talon comp. Why it's run is to have the EMP to create the disarray, hack everyone, and then
Talons. Is that what we're going to call it?
Sure, I like that.
Nice. Shout out to any World of Warcraft fans.
Right. And let's see what happens with this attack, because they're not going to have a second one. As I said, they didn't have a lot of time to build two. It's a very slow composition. It's designed to work only once, and if it fails, you have to switch and hope for desperation. This is their one shot. They're going to go left for it here. Going to see the Translocator come in, and it's all going to start. But look at this, Undyne very patiently on the side. Wants to make sure he gets his EMP off.
Well, it's going to be the first one coming out of Libero, actually, as they throw that one down. Side player holding on to his ultimate. There's the Blizzard, and Fuse is actually going to be taken down. Yeah, the hack means that he can't get that Death Blossom in there, but he's still safe. And Meta Athena is still picking up kills. Hyunwoo's going to fall down, but are they actually able to get anything more? I'm not entirely sure whether they can, because that Death Blossom just couldn't find the window to be used because he got hacked by Undyne.
And now he's dead here because he used his Raise Walk. One Fact was chasing him. The entire defensive set there for Space was to counter the Death Blossom. That's why he was on the angle there. The Undyne Sombra was on the angle to get the EMP after the combo was set up to be used, so we couldn't get that off. And now, again, they still have it available, but nothing to pair it with. Not even the self-destruct. Ashoon's forced to swap here. There's no ult charge, and I mean, this could just be a disaster. They don't even have a single tick, so they've got a long way to go here. Primal Rage is available. Undyne will have another EMP. This is going to have to be some sort of desperation push that gets picks early, or a misused defense against that Death Blossom.
Yeah, Libero's actually switched over to the Doomfist. Didn't even think he could get EMP up in time, because we've got 5 seconds until overtime. And yeah, Libero's going to be taken out. Hoon's going to lose his mech. Hyunwoo's in trouble, actually just getting pressured out. One Fact having a field day as per usual, and that certainly wasn't the Death Blossom that Meta Athena were looking for. Side player actually going to have to give up his life here as well. EMP comes down just because you got to press your Q buttons. They weren't going to have a lot more time, as MVP Space will get the hold, and they only need to get both of the captures here on Assault to try to get to the 3-0 victory over Meta Athena.
2 for 2. We saw on Monday, and we saw now tonight, Wednesday night, this Death Blossom slow push failed on Dorado because the opponents that it was Rox Orcus ran it. Their opponents were on the high ground there. They were ready for it. Everyone knows when you're running the Reaper and you come back for 2 passes at least, it's very obvious this is your plan, especially when you're running the Sombra and it's directly a Talon Cop. Your whole plan...
The Icy Talon's gone.
Icy Talon, my bad.
Thank you.
Your whole plan is to make sure that Death Blossom doesn't work. So you have the EMP there. He had, Undyne had the EMP and he's just sitting very far away from the fight, nowhere even close to it, because he knows when the Blizzard comes in, when the hack comes in, that's where they're going to try to get the most value out of it. He denies it. OneFact has to retreat. And then they further shut him down because OneFact goes and chases down the Reaper there, kills him before he could even try to get it off there. They come back for another push, and it's completely eaten by QOQ's defense matrix. And so for meta Athena, it's a risky tactic, but it's one that I feel it's not innovative anymore. It's very common, and I think the answers defensively and why we see it so unoften, so rarely, I should say.
Yeah, unoften works. I think people would understand.
We see it so rarely now because I feel like if you see it coming a mile away, you counter it, and it just fell flat there for meta Athena. They didn't have enough time bank to try to run it twice. They didn't get the build up very quickly.
I don't know, I felt like it was more just MVP Space regaining control, because things were certainly out of their control after that point A capture. It was messy when MVP Space started their defense on point B, but once they regained control, it just felt like Meta Athena didn't know how to get themselves back in there. They were running it down left over and over again, a little bit X6-esque the first time we saw them on Temple of Anubis, and even they were able to change up that particular playstyle. And what you need to do is throw different curveballs at a team in order to penetrate those defenses, because if you're throwing the same ball over and over again, people get used to where it's going to go and they can smack it out of the park. And that's exactly what MVP Space were able to do.
Okay, well, they're running this Reaper attack comp here on point A that we saw Panthera do in the grand finals, and they actually got control of the point, which is where Reaper is going to shine. The struggle is getting onto the point, but once you're there, you are a tank buster, and you're building up for that Death Blossom for perhaps the point B capture. Libero gets the pick onto Kuki here already. He's just going to keep coming back, picking up these hack health packs on the attack, mind you, to build up further for that EMP.
But Sideplay is actually able to take down the whole backline. Decent damage does end up coming in here from MVP Space onto the front line, but Meta Athena just getting too much more work done, and a little bit greedy on the positioning here from MVP Space was counted out by Meta Athena. Nicely done, guys.
So Undyne's not too far behind in EMP charge because QOQ got so many of those charges there in the room. So they're going to have actually that. Look at how much quicker they were because they got on the point so efficiently there, building up for that Death Blossom combo with the less than icy Talon comp here with no May.
I think so with the regular Talon comp. I like it.
Yeah, so let's see if they can actually, with this second push, build up for that. As once again, OneFact is able to do the hardest point, is to get onto the point itself. That's the hardest part of this push.
Yep, just actually looking for shots so he can build towards his ultimate. Is only 10% away. Double kill comes out for Sire Player though, as once again, he's the one getting the work done. And look at that, ultimate not finding anyone as the Death Blossom only gets the mech. And that is it, and OneFact is taken out. Almost used that by desperation as Rio now just running around getting kills where he can, and Meta Athena holding off brilliantly here on point A. Only 2 minutes to go. MVP Space actually in a bit of trouble.
Yeah, you gotta ask big questions about why the Death Blossom was used there, why the EMP was used. The EMP was pretty much an indicator we were gonna see a swap 100%, and it is gonna be Yaki now switching onto the bar they had so much success with on our point of Oasis there, point 1. Where the shutdowns were not as good from Hoon in the Pharah versus Pharah battle. So we'll see if he can actually make this work now. A hero he's clearly shown he's proven on.
Yep, certainly worked out for Meta Athena as well. Libero utilizing that Pharah very, very well. And now we've got Doomfist from OneFact dying to Lucio, unfortunately. QOQ, though, is going to be able to get Hoon's mech, which is huge news for Yaki, who now has free reign with these rockets without a defense matrix to worry about. And Rio actually in a lot of trouble. They use both support ultimates at the same time. A little bit unfortunate on the staggering there as Pulse Bomb finds Undyne, which is a bit of a disaster.
No
And MVP
res.
Space actually not going to have any opportunity to get anyone back up. Exactly right.
Best case scenario for Space now, they're going to have a terrible time bank if they capture this, and that's an if. With only 65 seconds left on the clock, no res available, Yaki is going to have the time of his life. Libero has the EMP available. They're about to have that Primal Rage, so many ways to buy time, and they very well may get the full hold here on point A. OneFact going into the back lines here to try to disrupt while Yaki is looking for the same kills. They're trying to work together to get the back line picked off.
Well, Yaki's actually going to be able to take down Sire Player, and you're exactly right. We almost got most of it done there as Yaki just a point-blank rocket barrage tears everyone up. And look at this, another MVP performance coming out of the DPS player for MVP Space. These are his picks, and he makes them look good, but only 20 seconds and 4.5 minutes now for point B.
All right, let's see if they just want to run the same comp here. They are going to have one fact go to try to look for a pick.
They only need one tick as well, Wolf.
Yeah, that's right. So already someone's on it here. Will be contested. Here comes the EMP coming out from Libero. He's getting very low. He does survive. Looks like this push will be shut down for now.
Yeah, the whole front line dead. That means Meta Athena are going to be able to hold down on.
They have a res.
Oh, yeah, they do have a res. Actually, brings up only Kuki. It's a little bit late to get QOQs back in there, but of course it was just the mech. A bit confusing there for me. Fortunately, it is a robot, so
yes,
it's pretty difficult to get that one back up. Self-destruct does come in. MVP Space still throwing out as many options as they can. One fact, Tracer is going to fall down. Kyoku does have a self-destruct to try and buy some space on this point. It's just not enough, though. Fuse and Kuki falling down.
That could be their tool, though.
Lose the mech once again.
That could be their tool if they have a res with that self-destruct to just zone everyone off the point. And if they kind of combine those two together, they dive in deep with one fact who's now switched over to the Doomfist. All they have to do is ruin Meta Athena's position on the point for 1 second, grab that first tick with the self-destruct where everyone has to leave the point, and they get it. It was pretty tempting. You could tell that he wanted to use it there, but he was like, let's just fall back. Better not waste this now. Wait for a better opportunity because we still have a massive time bank. Worst case scenario, we go to a tie here, so you don't need to force anything, and they're just going to be careful with this one. Saya player playing with fire here.
Yeah, one fact actually, in a lot of trouble, but does get healed back up. Thankfully is okay. EMP is in here, going to be thrown out immediately by Libero. Finds some good shots in, but Saya player able to take down Kuki in the end. So helpful. But Rocket Barrage comes down, and Yaki again trying to make that hero play. Gets himself this high ground, and there's the res onto Kuki. Yeah, so that monkey going to come back in. And we've got at least Ryu trying to create some disruption here on the front line. Good self-destruct kill actually gets rid of Boom, which could be very important. One back punches Saya player out of it. And MVP Space, look at their health bars. They have so much control here on the point. And Undyne, he used his res before, already back up to 33%.
Winston misses the jump too. He's not on the point, actually. They have to use Mei.
We are so close to getting this tick up because remember, only one tick needed, and they are going to be able to take this 3-0 victory. Hoon's going to get taken out of the mech and destroyed. Kuki gets both of those theoretical kills as QOQ. He's going to get some as well.
Undyne.
The front line picking up a lot of this as MVP Space want to get there. Decent defense from Meta Athena, but Saya player so very low. Mei almost off the point there, unfortunately, as Libero gets himself in. One fact with the uppercut.
Good positioning here from Fuse. He gets the sound barrier off despite the EMP. The res is going to be available because Undyne was free healing.
Disaster of a self-destruct there as well, just goes all the way off the point. So even if anyone was there, it was going to be a problem. And now Undyne has that res once again. That's going to be that. The 3-0 for MVP Space. And we need to you need to know how important that is, because if both Runaway and MVP Space get the 3-0s against this team, it's a wash, and it's only going to be the result of the head-to-head and the match against Lunatic High.
Yeah.
And if Lunatic High can take down Runaway in convincing fashion, it could be that if it's a 2-3 victory or something like that for Runaway over MVP Space, Space could still get through. Like, this is crazy results.
Really good swaps all throughout this series as the MVP coach comes in here, fist bumping. There were a lot of disjointed defenses there, too, on that last point. The missed Primal Rage from Rio, or not Primal Rage, the jump, where he actually missed the point, so couldn't come into contest, which forced then the Diva to come in, got D-Mech. Then Hoon had to use a self-destruct early.
And
also,
then missed it as
he
well.
missed the point, so he couldn't remech on the point. So they were just losing ground all the time, never able to get any consistent picks. Undyne was untouched in the backline, built that second res so quickly, was healing everybody up. Fuse also knowing the position there, he's trying to get the boops to actually secure the capture. And then when he saw the Sombra come in, he speed boosted away to avoid the EMP, drops down the sound barrier there to help them survive through when the hack was there. Just great coordination out of everybody on the side of Space, and unfortunately this just doesn't feel like the Season 2 semifinalist Meta Athena that were developing the meta, changing the way people were playing. They're struggling now in it, and I mean, it's a tough ask for them to get out of this group. They have to play against Lunatic High as their next opponent, and they can't defeat Space here, who themselves had trouble against Lunatic High. It looks like they might find themselves out of the group with an 0-9 score. Very possible. And for the meta fans, the crowd is silent as it's a sad day as both orgs struggle here in Season 4.
Yeah, things looking absolutely fantastic for MVP Space. But yes, I guess Meta Athena could theoretically... I'm not sure whether they're almost mathematically eliminated at this stage because of the 3-0 for Runaway, making it so hard for Meta to find anything. I mean, if they 3-0 Lunatic High and then Runaway doesn't find anything against their next
Let's watch this, where he barely survives.
Oh,
This has got to be the point A Rocket Barrage. Oh no, this is actually all the way back on Oasis.
Here's Oasis Rocket Barrage where he pops here, up over the hill,
Perfect
and then
angle.
See you later, everyone. And then even follows up with more.
Hoon just too late to react there as well. And we were talking about Kyokyu versus Hoon in the Pharah versus Pharah battle, and it was always Kyokyu who had the better defense matrices, which is why we saw way more rocket barrages out of Yagi. He built his charge way faster. That was only map 1, and that was the first point, which was the toughest time that Space had, but the rest of the series felt like a wash.
It certainly did, and that is going to give MVP Space that 3-0 scoreline. And as far as maps are concerned, they're going to move up to 6-2. Which is a very, very, very comfortable position to be in with still one more match to play. It will be against Runaway, and that will be a huge series.
Yeah,
so make sure you stick around for that. It's going to be in the coming weeks.
This might be Space's best Apex run if they get out of groups, get a good Group 4 round of 8. I mean, the MVP orgs, remember, both Space and the former team Infinity have really struggled in Overwatch.
Oh, yeah.
And they have such a big name behind them, but as you say, up down here with the +4 indicator with a 6-2. They are currently in first place. We'll see what happens with Runaway against Lunatic High, as they certainly could pass them. All it takes is a win for Runaway with a better than 3-1 score to actually get ahead of them. Otherwise, it'd be tied with +4. But that match is going to be the most exciting one for next week, and in fact, the only one for next Tuesday, as again, Luxury Watch Blue has dropped out of the tournament.
Yeah, that will be a huge match, though, so make sure you check that one out.
This definitely seems to be the group of death, absolutely, though. And unfortunately, Meta Athena is the weak link of it. It's the 3 Titans, Space, Runaway, and Lunatic High, the unlikely Titan in Space. And they just made this tournament and made this group so much more interesting.
Yeah, they most certainly did. You're looking at groups B and C, and it's looking fairly clear-cut. NC Foxes with pretty good performance, actually, in their last one, getting them to 0. But Kondu Panthera, of course, our runners-up for Season 3 at +5, feeling very, very good. And Combox and X6 already guaranteed out of Group B. It is Group A that is really the one that's up in the air. And unfortunately for Meta Athena, they feel like they are out of the running. I can't do the maths quite well enough, but I'm pretty sure there is almost no chance at all for them to get through, especially with the caliber of competition in Runaway and Lunatic High.
Yeah, no matter what score, actually, if you look at it, even if Runaway got 3-0'd, there's no way they have a better score than anybody. It's mathematically impossible.
Yeah, I feel like it certainly is. So, Meta Athena no longer going to be able to be here. And our next matches are interesting. Freak of Freaks going to be taking on LW Red. Freak of Freaks, of course, getting rid of the color. Don't need one anymore.
Yeah. And this should be a good series. The second series is actually really important, though, because if Flash Logs can actually, for the first time, really upset, they might actually be able to prevent Uncia from getting out of the group, because Foxes did get to that 0 score. So if Flash Logs take that win, it would be a big surprise, it would be a big shock, but it could cause Uncia to fall out of Group B, which would be a huge upset.
And Group B would then not be the Kongdu group, which is something that we were expecting could potentially happen, especially with Kongdu Uncia making that series against Panthera, the first one that we actually had here at Season 4. Made it a competitive one, especially to begin with, so that was exciting to watch.
Yeah, it certainly was. I feel like for Meta Athena, they used what worked for them in the past. We saw some Saya player Widow. I mean, him killing Yaki is going to be on highlight reels for the rest of time, but the team themselves, they can't grab a hold of this meta. They did it so well in Season 2, but in Season 4, not so much.
Well, that's going to do it for today. It's a very short one, but thanks so much for watching, guys. We'll see you next time.
Bye.